Good Tuesday evening. Welcome to BCP Live. I'm Joey McWilliams. Glad to be with you tonight. And I was talking before we got on the air that I didn't want to stumble over my words, and I even stumbled over my name. So I'm going to try not to do that anymore tonight. Here with Weslina Maxey. All right. And I will not. I'm not going to stumble over any more words tonight. Weslina, I'm glad that you were with us tonight. Really quickly, I want to say a shout out to everyone for watching, whether you're watching the live stream or whether you're watching the recorded version of this. We have had election results already this year. We took the week off last Tuesday night. Glad to be back on with you all tonight. Already visited with next week's guest, and he is excited to be on. And I'm not going to mention any names till they get there. I always want to make sure that we give everyone a chance to bail if they need to. But on a Tuesday night, I'm glad you're watching us. Also, don't forget that we have more high school basketball teams in Bryan County that are in the playoffs, continuing in the playoffs, including Caddo making it back, boys and girls, to the state tournament. More action coming up. We will have the scores on the BryanCountyPatriot.com website. Now, Weslina Maxey, first time being on the program. Welcome to BCP Live. I appreciate you coming onto the program and being with us here tonight from the Holistic Pelvis. And I have to ask about that just to get started. That's the first time I've ever heard of business with that name. Where do you get that name?
Well, first off, thank you for having me, and thank you for that great introduction. So actually, I actually rebranded about 8 months ago, and my first name was Life After Childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I provide pelvic floor therapy for women, but that name didn't give me the inclusivity that I wanted. So with the holistic pelvis, I really strive to provide whole body care. So really evaluating, assessing, putting into account the entire body when I work with my clients. So that's where kind of the holistic part comes from. And of course, the pelvis, everything has to do with your pelvis. And that's kind of, we'll get into that a little bit more tonight. But so thinking of that, your pelvis isn't connected to your entire body. Your body affects your pelvis. So the holistic pelvis kind of well rounds what I do with my clients and how I want to be perceived and be noticed and be known for is that I take care of my whole client, not just the pelvic floor.
Okay. And that makes sense too. And I understand the rebranding in that too. I can totally see that. It's one of those things too. I would ask this: if you're talking with someone and if I were to say, hey, listen, I just talked with Weslina Maxey last night and she was talking about her business, the Holistic Pelvis. Are there any kind of misconceptions that would come into play when you're talking about pelvic health?
Yes. So, where do I begin? There's a lot of misconceptions with pelvic floor therapy, pelvic health. I'll give you two, if that's okay,
Okay.
instead of just going down to one.
Yeah,
So one would be that a lot of people talk about a Kegel, which they think that's strengthening their pelvic floor. They think that's the only thing that pelvic health does or pelvic floor therapy does. And that's only the contraction of your pelvic floor muscles. So you have 14 plus muscles in your pelvic floor. Men, women, non-binary people, they all have pelvic floor muscles in their body. And we don't only want to contract them. That would be like contracting your bicep all day and thinking that's going to get stronger. No, we need a full range of motion of those muscles. And that's what a lot of people are missing. And that's where that myth comes from. I mean, the Kegel was invented by a man hundreds of years ago that we didn't know a lot about pelvic floor muscles. We didn't know a lot about women's health or, everybody's health. And so that's one misconception, one big one that a lot of people think about pelvic floor therapy is that, oh, well, I already do my Kegels. Like, what else would a pelvic floor therapist does? And there's a lot more than that. So another one that I would say kind of goes by why I changed my name of my rebranding. A lot of people think that pelvic floor therapy is only made for women that's had a child, and where, yes, it is very beneficial if you're pregnant or postpartum to see a pelvic floor therapist. That is not the only people that we see. I specialize in women's health, so I do only see women, but I don't only see women that have had a child or that is pregnant. I've seen as young as a 16-year-old. I've seen as old as a 75-year-old. So it's not just when you've had a child that you might have pelvic floor dysfunction. So that's another big misconception of pelvic health.
Okay. Well, then let me ask for someone, and of course, you're talking about seeing women for pelvic health issues, or I don't know exactly how to say that. I guess my question then is, how does someone know if they need to come to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a lot of variety of different reasons why someone would need to come see a pelvic health therapist. I'm going to talk about some of the common things that I see where people have urinary incontinence, where they may leak when they move a certain way, when they laugh, sneeze, when they jump on a trampoline, when they lift something heavy, or, just randomly. Back pain is directly connected to your pelvic floor muscle. So that's commonly is what I see in my clinic is people that come in with back pain. And then vaginismus, which is a person that experiences pain with intercourse. So those are some of the common diagnoses, I guess you could say, that come and see me. But there's so many other things that someone might need to come see me, like post-hysterectomy. So with a hysterectomy, you're losing one of your organs. Your uterus is coming out, right? So that's affecting how your pelvic bowl is, how your pelvic floor muscles respond to movement, to breathing. The scar from your hysterectomy can affect how your abdominals are working. And if your abdominals aren't working as efficiently as they could, then it's going to affect your pelvic floor because those are directly connected. So those are kind of, I give an analogy to a lot of my clients of that your body is kind of like a house. So a house has a roof, walls, and a floor. Your floor is obviously your pelvic floor. Your walls is your core and your back. And your roof of your house, of your body, is your diaphragm, where your rib cage is. So that's all connected, because if your core isn't working efficiently, then your pelvic floor can't work efficiently. If your back is overloaded and overworking and you have that back pain, that means your pelvic floor is having to take on more work. So there's a lot of different things that people might come to me, even like just a weak core in general can affect how your pelvic floor muscles are responding, or vice versa. If your pelvic floor muscles aren't responding, then maybe your core isn't engaging as well as it could be. So even just regular core engagement, like I do fitness workshops of figuring out how they can engage their core better, how can they protect their pelvic floor better, how can they protect their back better, things like that during lifting. So I guess to sum up that answer, loads of different things is why someone would come to me, but some of those common ones, like I first said, would be what I mostly see.
And you're right here in Bryan County, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and I do want the people to be able to know where they can get in touch with you here in a moment. We're visiting tonight with Weslina Maxey here on BCP Live on this Tuesday night, wrapping up the month, as it is the final Tuesday of February in 2024. This year is just cruising by. Weslina, I would ask you also then, you talked about all those things. How do you, I mean, what made you look up one day and go, you know what, this is the field I need to be in. This is something I want to do, and I want to help people in this area. How did you get involved in this?
Yeah, so I'm an occupational therapist, as that's my main background is I work in a hospital as an occupational therapist. So I ended up specializing in pelvic floor as an occupational therapy practitioner. And I found that there was a gap in women's health, that there was a gap in this area. And as soon as I started doing more research on it, I figured out that For one, why isn't this already like more talked about? And for two, there's so much that you just don't know. I tell people all the time, you just don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And the more questions we ask, the more we find out, the more we advocate for ourselves, the more support that we can get. So, in general, there's just a gap in women's health of people brushing things off, even doctors brushing things off of it being normal or common because you're aging or because you're a woman or because you've had a child or because you lift heavy. That's just how it is. There's a lot of things that we, again, brush off that can actually be helped and is treatable. So I'm trying to fill that gap as much as I can.
Well, that's cool. And I appreciate that. You've mentioned a number of things so far, and of course, I'm a guy. I don't know everything that goes on with some of the things that you just described. And if there is, are there things that people deal with that they just don't talk about? You know, it's like that. This is something I'm dealing with now that you can help with, but they feel like can they talk to you about that? And what might some of those things be?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that struggle in silence and they don't know, for one, that they can speak about it, or they don't feel comfortable speaking about it, or people aren't asking the right questions. Um,
That would
oh,
probably be me. I would probably not ask the right questions. But, go ahead.
and again, people just sometimes don't know what questions to ask. Um, so yes, so I strive on talking about taboo topics. So I love asking the questions that no one else is asking, because questions that I ask, people are like, "Oh, I never even thought about it. Let me think about that answer real quick." Um, so one thing that comes to mind about something that someone could be struggling silently with that pelvic floor therapy can address is the inability to reach an orgasm. A lot of people don't talk about it. And again, I strive on talking about the taboo topics. So that's something that, again, people just don't talk about. We're not going to sit around the, dinner table and be like, well, I don't enjoy doing this, but I do it because I'm, married. I do it because that's the normal or whatever. But that means you have a pelvic floor dysfunction and there's a disconnect there. And we need to build that connection and that coordination of those muscles. Another one, I don't know if it's silently or because I know a lot of people laugh about it, will talk about it, about leaking when you jump on a trampoline or when you laugh, sneeze, or cough. I don't know. I wouldn't say that silently, really, because a lot of people do. They'll laugh about it or they'll talk about it and be like, "Oh, you're gonna make me pee," whatever. And whereas like people get through it with laughing, it is never normal to do that. And if that is happening, that means there is some sort of disconnect and some sort of pelvic floor dysfunction that needs to be addressed.
All right. Well, you're on with us here tonight on BCP Live. Are you able to? I mean, how else? Where else are you advertising? Getting to talk about what it is that you do.
So where I met you, I come to the chamber events, the Coffee Network, that goes
Okay,
on
no Coffee
Wednesday.
Network, no Chamber of Commerce. Yay.
Yes. And then just in general, getting out into the community, I go just again talk about the taboo topics we don't talk about. I'll walk into hair salons and hand out my marketing materials because everybody's gossiping in a hair salon. So uh, I even go to
I didn't
coffee.
know about that, so I couldn't. I'll take your word. I'll take your word for it.
I go to coffee shops. I go to chiropractors because chiropractors and pelvic floor therapists can really work hand in hand. Where a chiropractor would be addressing hip and back pain and things like that, if they find that their client is still having these reoccurrent things, it could be because their pelvic floor muscles are restricting their hips or their back. Or vice versa. If I'm hitting a wall with a client and we've addressed the pelvic floor, we've addressed the hip and back pain as far as I go, then, I refer out to chiropractors. So I get in contact with them. Massage therapists, same thing. Like if they're hitting a wall where they're not getting relief, then pelvic floor therapy can come in handy there. And then vice versa. I go and talk to OBGYNs or midwives, doulas. Um, any other women's health practitioners that I've found around the area. I am going to a Texoma Expo in April. That's all with prenatal and postpartum. They'll have doulas, they'll have massage therapists, they'll have midwives, um, photographers, things like that, pelvic health providers, things like that. So I'm excited about that. But really, just in general, trying to get out into the community as much as I can, because talking to people in person is so much better than online. Now, with that being said, a lot of our world now is online. So I do a lot of marketing on social media. I'm on TikTok, but most of my stuff is on Facebook and Instagram, as I would say that's my main page that I definitely market all my workshops. I put all my like education out there that is just like, did you know stuff, things, what pelvic floor therapy addresses, things like that, and what my business is up to, and things like that.
Sounds like you have a lot of connections already, though. That lot of interweaving there of people and businesses throughout the area.
Yes, yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate the fact that we can be on social media. Of course, we're live tonight on both Facebook
Mhm.
and YouTube, and I appreciate the audience for watching tonight. So stay with us here on BCP Live. Let me ask you then where folks can find you. Where are you? Do you have a physical location here in Bryan County?
I do. So I am on Evergreen Street. It's the address is 307 West Evergreen, but it's in a building and there's multiple offices in it, but I have my own office in there. Um, there it's right across from City Hall is the best way I can describe where it's at. But I've really liked it. I've been in there since the beginning of January now. Before that, I was seeing clients either in their home or in my home through a side door that we have a side room. But now I have an own location and it's been great. It's like I couldn't ask for a better location right now where my business is. And my clients have really enjoyed that. We have extra space, more space now. And it's been great. I've loved it.
Now, I did hear what you said. I'm going to have you say it again here in just a moment. And I was curious about that too. I know that I had a chance to meet you a few months back again at Coffee Network,
Hmm.
Go Chamber of Commerce, and I appreciate that. If you have a business in the Durant area, not just Durant, but Bryan County, and if you have a business in the Durant area and you're not already in the chamber, you should look into that. But also, if you are, this is a great place to get to meet people, and that's where I got to meet Weslina. So I'm glad to get to continue the conversation tonight. If there is something, whether or not that you've been diagnosed with some kind of pelvic health issue, is there anything that just anybody and everyone can do to put themselves in good shape or keep themselves in good shape?
Yes. So there's a few things that I um I say that everybody could address of just okay, two things. One, just bringing more awareness to your body, more tuning into your body, because I would say probably 90% of the population, we're in go, 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 fight or flight all the time. So when that's happening, our muscles in our body is protecting us in a way. We're getting through the day, we're getting through the night, we're getting through the week. So just slowing down and actually listening to our body instead of pushing it aside, because our body is our temple. It's what we need to take care of. We need to tune into it and talk to it and listen to it. So for one, just being a little bit more aware of your body, how you move your body, how you stand on your feet. What are your feet doing? What are your shoulders doing? Things like that. And then breathing more into your rib cage is one thing that someone could take right this second and start doing. Breathing more into your rib cage versus breathing into your belly or doing a chest breath up into your shoulders. So your rib cage can expand and close just like an umbrella. So if you think of an umbrella that's opening, that's your inhale, expanding your rib cage. And as you exhale, that's your closed umbrella. So closing that rib cage as you exhale. Some people will have a paradoxical breathing pattern, which is it would be doing the opposite. So that's something to be addressed by pelvic health therapist. So just paying attention to your breathing, figuring out what your breath pattern is, and trying to bring more of that breath into your rib cage.
I always heard breathe with your diaphragm. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So your diaphragm's directly connected under your rib cage. So expanding that diaphragm pushes out into your rib cage. So yeah, exactly. Diaphragmatic breathing.
Okay, that's what I always heard growing up, that you need to breathe with your diaphragm. All right, good. So I brought something to the conversation. I'm really glad. I was concerned I wouldn't be able to do that tonight. So I gave you the opportunity to tell us where you're physically located. I want you to do that again, and on top of that, tell people where they can find you online. We were talking about the conversation being online nowadays. So where again do they find you physically? Where can they find you online?
Yeah. So physically, you can find me at 307 West Evergreen. Now, I'm not there every day, all day. Usually it's by appointment. And then if I have appointments throughout the day, I'll obviously be there all day in between appointments and things like that. And then online, Facebook, my business name is just The Holistic Pelvis. And then on Instagram, it's the same, but underscores under each word. So the underscore holistic underscore pelvis. Okay. And those are my two main fronts that I post everything on for my business.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate you being on with us tonight here and visiting about your business. We enjoy talking about our local businesses, our local organizations here on BCP Live. Hi, Dottie. Glad that you came on tonight too. I appreciate that. I've been missing seeing your name come up there, and so I know that our timing has been off. It's good to see you tonight. By the way, if you're watching us, let us know from where, either in or out of Bryan County, you happen to be watching us tonight. As we wrap up our time with Weslina, I just want to ask you, is there anything else? Shannon, thank you, by the way, for coming on tonight. I appreciate that as well. Dr. Walker, thank you very much. Was there anything else that you'd like to add and maybe just wrap it up, put a bow on it for us?
Yeah. So I wanted to add that my favorite thing is to do work. Well, my favorite thing is to work one-on-one with clients, but my other favorite thing is workshops. So I do group workshops.
You can have two favorite things. It's fine. It's all right.
Well, thank you. My second favorite thing is workshops. So I do monthly workshops, and that's a way to get people to come in, figure out what pelvic floor therapy is, and kind of how I work with clients, what my vibe is, will they resonate with me? Because, I mean, yes, I'm a pelvic floor therapist, and yes, I want to help every person, but maybe I'm not your person, and that's okay. Maybe you're not my ideal client, and that's okay. I want to help you find your ideal therapist. So my workshops kind of give you an idea of how I work with clients, how I educate my clients, and give you more information about pelvic floor therapy in general. So I have different topics, whether it's just pelvic floor education in general. I do yoga movement ones. I do specific pregnancy ones, postpartum ones, sometimes some fitness ones specifically, and things like that. So if you don't know about my workshops and you're interested, please follow me. And then also, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, the holistic pelvis with the number 1 at gmail.com. I'm always open to any questions. And if you just don't know if pelvic floor therapy is for you, ask those questions. The more we ask, the more we can find out where your journey needs to lead. All right.
Well, I appreciate you spending some of your Tuesday night with me and with us tonight. Good crowd on hand during the live broadcast tonight. And I know that there are people watching us as well as this has been recorded. Weslina Maxey with the Holistic Pelvis. As we wrap up on this Tuesday night, we'll get finished before the half-hour mark gets here. So let me give a shout out again to Dottie, who, by the way, is a grandma now. And congratulations to her and to Kai.
Yay.
Absolutely wonderful time. I'll talk more about being a granddaddy again, because you may have seen a post on Facebook about that. But tonight's Dottie's night. So shout out to her for being a grandma. And don't forget, we have more things going on other than just our live broadcasts. We were at Comic-Con this weekend, have some good interviews from Texoma Comic-Con. It was a blast, and they are coming back. So that's going to be the first, and hopefully, I don't know if it'll be an annual event or not, or how often they'll come in, but there will be a second one too. So if you missed the one this weekend, get ready, because there will be another one. There was such a great turnout and a great response for that. Also, I want to remind you again that we have high school basketball teams that are continuing to play in the playoffs. And Caddo back, the boys trying to repeat as champions. The girls were runners up last year. They'd like to go all the way and maybe get a gold ball as well. So those are things that are going on. Other teams continuing in their playoff run and hunt to go farther along in the playoffs. So keep that in mind. We'll keep you up to speed with what is happening on BryanCountyPatriot.com. And as we wrap up, as always, let me remind you, there are a lot of things that I get to hopefully give you some wisdom on. I appreciate the wisdom and learning about pelvic health tonight that I've gotten from Weslina. If you've seen this broadcast before, then you know what's coming. I have 3 things I try to share with you each and every week, and they are this. Number 1, I encourage you to be wise. And that is easier said than done. Wisdom doesn't come with age. Sometimes, with age comes wisdom. No, with age sometimes comes wrinkles. That with age comes opportunities. With age comes maybe experience, but wisdom comes from God. And I want to remind you of that. So if you need wisdom, God said just ask him. Number 2, walk in love. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but it is always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's hard to walk in love, but I encourage you to walk in love in every opportunity that you get. And number 3, do not walk in fear. You're going to get chances to be afraid every day. National media, if you don't feel like there's an opportunity to be afraid, the national media will give you a chance to be afraid of something. So I encourage you, don't walk in fear. Doesn't mean you can't have respect for a situation, but you can do it without being fearful. So be wise, walk in love, do not walk in fear. And final shout out to Weslina Maxey, because she hung on with me tonight. Listen to all of the little rambling I had along the way too. I think Weslina, I got my stumbles out of the way, and we talked about this before we came on the air too. I think I got my stumbles out of the way in the first 20 seconds. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually I wait till much later than that. But you did a fantastic job tonight. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast.
So welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And I will see you tomorrow, very likely, as well, at Coffee Network. Is that true?
Well, actually, no. I have a workshop at Unshakable Fitness.
Oh, yes.
I will be there.
Sarah Hill's place
Yes.
there. I'll tell you, I can tell you stories about Sarah. She's a fantastic person and a good person. So maybe we'll talk about Unshakable Fitness here one of these times too. But shout out to you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, we'll wrap it up here from Studio B at the international headquarters of Emerald Quest. It's BCP Live. That's where we are. And we bring it to a close before 30 minutes get here. Dottie, thanks for coming on. Dr. Walker, thank you very much for the comment tonight as well. God bless you all. Have a great night. And we will see you again in about 7 days. We'll be back. Great guest next Tuesday night. Tune in for that.